The clock on Professor Natalie Harlow's office wall ticked relentlessly toward midnight. Rain pelted against the window, casting elongated shadows across her desk. The glow of her lamp illuminated yellowed newspaper clippings, police reports, and photographs pinned to a corkboard behind her. At the center, a smiling young man with intelligent eyes and an earnest expression, Tristan Cole. She traced her finger over his face, the way a mother might touch a photograph of a lost child. 4 years had passed, yet the weight of his absence pressed against her chest daily. 4 years since her most brilliant student had vanished without a trace. 4 years of unanswered questions. "Where did you go, Tristan?" she whispered to the empty room. Haven Ridge University's prestigious psychology department had continued functioning after his disappearance. Students still filled lecture halls, papers were still published, careers still advanced. But for Natalie, something fundamental had fractured the night Tristan disappeared. Her mentor's intuition had screamed that something was wrong, yet she'd done nothing until it was too late. The rain intensified, drumming an accusatory rhythm against the window. Haven Ridge's Gothic architecture and ivy-covered walls concealed darker truths than its glossy brochures suggested. The cutthroat competition, the desperation for recognition, the unspoken pressure that drove students to mental breaking points in pursuit of academic glory. Her phone rang, slicing through her thoughts. Unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail. Who would call at this hour? But something compelled her to answer. "Professor Harlow?" The voice was unfamiliar, professional, tense. "Speaking. This is Detective Lauren Spencer. I'm calling about Tristan Cole." Natalie's grip tightened on the receiver. 4 years of hoping for this call, dreading it simultaneously. They found him. 3 words, simple, devastating, final. The air left Natalie's lungs as though she'd been struck. The rain continued its relentless drumming, but she no longer heard it. Just those 3 words echoing in her mind. They found him. They found him. They found him. Before we dive deeper into this chilling case, I'm curious where you're watching from today. Are you in a college town? Comment below where you're viewing from and hit subscribe to join our mystery-seeking community. This story of academic brilliance, jealousy, and a cold case suddenly breaking open might hit closer to home than you think. 4 years earlier, Tristan Cole walked Haven Ridge's campus with quiet confidence. Fall leaves crunched beneath his feet as he navigated the pathways between Gothic buildings. Unlike many of his peers, he carried no outward markers of wealth. No designer backpack, no luxury watch, just a worn messenger bag overflowing with books and a mind sharper than anyone in his class. "Mr. Cole, your analysis of cognitive dissonance in criminal psychology is exceptional," Professor Randall had announced, returning midterm papers to the lecture hall. "Perhaps you could tutor some of your classmates." Several students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others glanced at Tristan with thinly veiled resentment. A 4.0 GPA, presidential scholar, research assistant to 2 department heads simultaneously. While other students struggled through all-nighters fueled by energy drinks, Tristan seemed to absorb complex theories effortlessly. "He's not even human," Alexis Warner had whispered to her study group that afternoon. Tall, ambitious, with sharp features and sharper ambition, she'd ranked second to Tristan in every class since freshman year. Nobody's that perfect. He must be cheating somehow. But Tristan wasn't cheating. His brilliance was genuine, a natural ability to connect disparate ideas, to see patterns others missed. His research on trauma responses had already been cited in 2 peer-reviewed journals, unprecedented for an undergraduate. "I don't understand why everyone resents him," Zoe Tanner had replied, organizing her color-coded notes with methodical precision. Small-framed with intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, Zoe approached research with mathematical precision. "He helps anyone who asks." That's what makes it worse, Dominic Voss had muttered, barely looking up from his laptop. Quiet, intense, with perpetually uncombed hair and a mind that worked in bursts of brilliance, Dominic had been published once himself. He doesn't even have to try. Noah Blackwell had laughed, leaning back in his chair. Effortlessly stylish in clothes worth more than most students' monthly rent, Noah's family name adorned the business school building. Who cares? We're all getting the same degree. Some of us just have to work harder for it. That October, Professor Natalie Harlow had selected 5 students for her exclusive research practicum in forensic psychology. The announcement posted outside her office drew crowds of hopeful undergraduates. Only 5 names appeared: Tristan Cole, Alexis Warner, Dominic Voss, Zoe Tanner, Noah Blackwell. The assignment: examine the psychological impacts of academic pressure, focusing on where ambition crosses into dangerous territory. The irony would only become apparent later. Their first meeting took place in the psychology department's conference room. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating floating dust particles and 5 nervous students. "This project will challenge you," Professor Harlow had explained, her voice carrying the gravitas of someone who had testified at high-profile criminal trials. "You'll conduct surveys, analyze data, and potentially uncover patterns that could change how universities approach mental health." For 6 weeks, they worked together. Tristan naturally emerged as their unofficial leader, guiding discussions with insight and patience. They gathered data from students across 7 universities. Patterns emerged, correlations formed, the research took shape. Until the night Tristan burst into their study room, eyes bright with excitement, cheeks flushed from running across campus. "I've found something," he'd announced, clutching his laptop. "The data we've been analyzing, I ran it through a different algorithm. There's a correlation nobody's ever documented before." "What kind of correlation?" Alexis had asked, her voice tight. "A predictive model for identifying students at highest risk, not just for anxiety or depression, but for," he hesitated, "for potential violence against themselves or others." The room had fallen silent. This was beyond their original scope. This was groundbreaking. "If this holds up under scrutiny," Tristan continued, "we could create an early intervention system. We could save lives." Noah had shrugged, unimpressed. "Sounds depressing." "It sounds unethical," Dominic countered, suddenly animated. "Labeling students as potential threats based on an algorithm?" "It's not labeling," Tristan insisted. "It's identifying risk factors for early support." "It's brilliant," Zoe said quietly. "If we can validate it." Alexis said nothing, but her eyes narrowed as she watched Tristan explain his methodology. None of them knew that within 24 hours, Tristan Cole would vanish from campus. None of them knew that his breakthrough would never be published. None of them knew that the next time anyone saw Tristan, he would be nothing but bones in a forgotten basement. The old university library smelled of aged paper and wood polish. Study Room C, tucked in the building's east wing, had become their unofficial headquarters. On October 18th, their last meeting ran late, nearly midnight by the time voices began to rise. "You can't seriously think this algorithm is reliable," Dominic insisted, pacing between bookshelves. "The sample size is too small." "I've run the validation tests 3 times, Tristan replied, his usual calm fraying at the edges. "The correlation holds." "Even if it works," Alexis interjected, arms crossed tightly across her chest. "Publishing this could be career suicide, suggesting we can predict which students might become violent. The ethical concerns alone." "Since when do you care about ethics?" Zoe asked quietly, not looking up from her laptop. "This could genuinely help people." "I care about not attaching my name to something that could get us blacklisted from graduate programs," Alexis snapped. Noah slouched in his chair, scrolling through his phone. "Can we wrap this up? Some of us have actual lives outside this project." Rain began tapping against the windows, a gentle counterpoint to the tension filling the small room. Tristan rubbed his temples, fatigue evident in the shadows beneath his eyes. He hadn't slept properly in days, consumed by the implications of his discovery. "Look," he finally said, gathering his papers, "I'm going to run one more validation test tonight. I have access to Dr. Linden's lab until 3 a.m. If the results hold, we present this to Professor Harlow tomorrow. If not," he shrugged, "we go back to our original scope." "I'll come with you," Dominic offered suddenly. "4 eyes are better than 2. Tristan shook his head. "Thanks, but I need to focus." No distractions. Something flashed across Dominic's face. Disappointment? Frustration? It vanished too quickly to identify. Alexis snapped her laptop closed with unnecessary force. This project was supposed to be collaborative. When did it become the Tristan Cole show? "When he was the only one putting in the work," Zoe muttered. "What was that?" Alexis demanded. "Nothing." Zoe gathered her things. "I'm heading out." Noah yawned dramatically. Finally, they dispersed into the rainy night, Tristan the last to leave. Security footage would later show him exiting the library at 12:17 a.m., collar turned up against the rain, headed in the direction of the science complex. That grainy image, Tristan walking alone through sheets of rain, would become the final documented proof of his existence. The next morning, Professor Harlow waited in her office for their scheduled presentation. 9 a.m. came and went. By 9:15, the group had assembled, minus Tristan. "Has anyone heard from him?" she asked, concern creeping into her voice. Tristan had never been late for anything in 3 years. Alexis checked her phone. "I texted him twice. No response." "Maybe he overslept," Noah suggested with a smirk. The perfect student finally cracks under pressure. But Tristan hadn't overslept. When campus security unlocked his dormitory room that afternoon, they found everything in meticulous order. Bed made, books arranged by subject, laptop missing, presumably in his backpack, also nowhere to be found. By evening, Tristan's absence had evolved from an anomaly to a concern. By the following morning, it had become an official missing persons case. Professor Harlow joined the search teams that combed through campus. Flyers appeared on every bulletin board and lamppost. Local news ran a brief segment on the missing student. "He wouldn't just leave," Natalie insisted to the detective initially assigned to the case. "Tristan was the most responsible student I've ever taught, and he was excited about this project, convinced they were onto something important." The investigation expanded. Security footage showed Tristan entering the science building at 12:26 a.m., but never leaving, at least not through any monitored exit. His phone had last pinged near campus before going dark. His bank accounts remained untouched. Police interviewed his group members separately, then together. Their stories aligned on most details: the argument about the algorithm, Tristan's determination to validate his findings, their departure from the library. But subtle inconsistencies emerged in their timelines after leaving. "I went straight back to my apartment and was asleep by 1 o'clock, Alexis stated. "I stopped for coffee at the 24-hour diner," Dominic reported. "The waitress remembers me." "I called an Uber," Zoe said quietly. "The receipt is on my phone." "I met friends at Blackwell's pub," Noah replied with a shrug. "About 20 people saw me there." Days stretched into weeks. The initial urgency faded. Other news replaced Tristan's disappearance in local headlines. Theories multiplied. He'd suffered a mental breakdown. He'd fled academic pressure. He'd started a new life elsewhere. His group members completed the project without him, submitting a version that made no mention of Tristan's breakthrough algorithm. They received an A. Life at Haven Ridge continued. By winter, snow covered the grounds where search parties had once called Tristan's name. By spring, his case had grown cold. By the following fall, new students occupied his former dormitory, unaware of who had lived there before. For 4 years, Tristan Cole existed only in fading memories and a thin file in the detective's cold case drawer, until a renovation crew uncovered what everyone had missed. "Watch it, Marco. That section might not be stable." Victor Ramirez wiped sweat from his brow as he supervised the demolition team. October again, but unusually warm for New England. The Lancaster building, a hulking administrative structure from the 1920s, had stood empty for nearly a decade, its once grand facade crumbling, its interior rotting from neglect. Haven Ridge's ambitious campus renewal project had finally reached this forgotten corner. Marco Diaz, the youngest worker on the crew, removed his hard hat momentarily to run a hand through his hair. "This whole place gives me the creeps. Why didn't they tear it down years ago?" "Historical preservation nonsense," Victor replied, consulting his blueprints. "We're just gutting the interior. Exterior has to stay intact." Their work had progressed methodically for 3 weeks, stripping decades of accumulated materials, exposing the building's bones, preparing for its transformation into a modern research center. Until that afternoon, when Marco's sledgehammer broke through a section of wall behind what had once been a maintenance closet. "Hey, Victor, come look at this." The foreman crossed the debris-strewn floor, dust dancing in the shafts of sunlight streaming through broken windows. Marco pointed toward the hole he'd created. Behind the drywall wasn't the expected structural support. Instead, a narrow corridor extended into darkness. "That's not on the blueprints," Victor muttered, shining his flashlight into the opening. The beam illuminated a tight passageway, cobwebs hanging like funeral shrouds. "This building's full of surprises." "Should we check it out?" Marco asked, curiosity overcoming his earlier unease. Victor hesitated. "Let me call the project manager first." But the call went to voicemail, and curiosity won out. Victor widened the opening, careful not to disturb any potential structural supports. He and Marco squeezed through, flashlights cutting through decades of undisturbed darkness. The passageway extended about 15 feet before ending at a heavy metal door, its surface blooming with rust. A padlock, now mostly corroded, hung uselessly from the latch. "Maintenance access, maybe," Marco suggested. Victor shook his head. "Not on any plans I've seen." The door resisted initially, years of disuse having sealed it more effectively than any lock. Both men pushed, metal groaning in protest, until it finally yielded with a sound like a gasping breath. The stench hit them first, the concentrated decay of decades, damp stone, and something else, something wrong. Their flashlights revealed a room approximately 20 feet square. Unlike the rest of the building, this space appeared intentionally preserved. Metal shelving lined the walls, old filing cabinets stood sentinel in corners, a desk remained positioned near the center. "What is this place?" Marco whispered, his voice instinctively lowering in the presence of something that felt sacred or profane. He couldn't tell which. Victor stepped further inside, his beam scanning methodically. "Some kind of storage room? Records, maybe?" The light caught something against the far wall, something that didn't belong among filing cabinets and forgotten paperwork. A huddled shape, fabric remnants, and beneath them, unmistakable even to untrained eyes, bones. "Holy shit," Marco breathed, stumbling backward. "Is that—" "Call 911, Victor ordered, his voice steady despite the hammering in his chest. "Now." Within an hour, the renovation site transformed into a crime scene. Yellow tape cordoned off the Lancaster building. Police cruisers lined the narrow access road. Forensic technicians in white Tyvek suits moved with practiced efficiency, cataloging, photographing, collecting. Detective Lawrence Spencer arrived as they were preparing to remove the remains. Tall, with prematurely gray hair cropped short and eyes that had seen too much, she had transferred to the department 3 years earlier, specializing in cold cases. "What have we got?" she asked the forensic lead, pulling on booties before entering the scene. "Male, young adult based on initial assessment. Been here a while. at least several years judging by decomposition and environmental factors. Spencer nodded, following him through the now illuminated passageway into the basement room. The space looked different under the harsh portable lights, less mysterious, more tragic. The skeletal remains had been partially uncovered, revealing a skull, ribcage, and longer bones, still partially clothed in degraded fabric. Position suggests he was placed here deliberately, the technician continued, not consistent with someone who died accidentally or by suicide. Spencer crouched near the remains, studying them without touching. Any ID? Backpack nearby contained a student ID card, deteriorated but legible. Tristan Cole, Haven Ridge University. Spencer's expression remained professional, but something shifted behind her eyes. The missing student from 4 years ago, the one who vanished after leaving the library? Appears so. We'll confirm through dental records, but the circumstantial evidence is compelling. She stood, scanning the room with new intensity. This wasn't just a body in an abandoned building anymore. This was a cold case, suddenly breaking open. Any obvious cause of death? The technician pointed to the skull. Blunt force trauma to the occipital region. We'll know more after the medical examiner's assessment, but someone hit him hard enough to kill him. Spencer nodded, taking in every detail of the scene. The rusted door, the makeshift seal, the deliberate concealment. Someone wanted him to stay hidden, she murmured. Someone knew this place existed when it wasn't on any blueprints. The forensic technician bagged a deteriorated notebook found near the remains. There's more. Initial inventory of the backpack contents shows research materials, notes, data printouts, all related to something called the pressure point predictive model. Spencer's phone rang, the medical examiner confirming what they already suspected. Dental records matched Tristan Cole. As the team prepared to transport the remains, Spencer stepped outside. Campus had grown quiet. News of the discovery spreading like wildfire through text messages and whispered conversations. A small crowd of students watched from beyond the police tape, their faces illuminated by the blue and red lights flashing against Gothic architecture. She dialed a number, steeling herself for a difficult conversation. Professor Harlow? This is Detective Spencer. They found him. This discovery shook the entire Haven Ridge community. If you're invested in solving this mystery alongside us, hit that like button and share your initial theories in the comments. Who could have wanted this brilliant student silenced? And how did they hide him in plain sight for 4 years? The medical examiner's office smelled of industrial disinfectant and something more primal that no chemical could quite mask. Detective Lauren Spencer stood with her arms crossed, watching Dr. Hassan arrange the cleaned bones on the examination table. Cause of death is consistent with our initial assessment, he explained, pointing to a depressed fracture on the skull. Blunt force trauma with a heavy object, approximately 2 inches in width. Death would have been nearly instantaneous. Murder weapon? Dr. Hassan shrugged. Something solid with a flat surface. Pipe, wrench, trophy. Impossible to specify without more evidence. Spencer nodded, making notes. 15 years in homicide had taught her that the dead spoke their own language. Tristan Cole was telling his story through broken bones and placement of remains. Time of death? Consistent with his disappearance 4 years ago. No evidence of survival beyond that point. Any defensive wounds? Dr. Hassan moved to the arm bones. None that left marks on the skeleton. Either he didn't see the attack coming, or he knew his attacker and wasn't defensive. Spencer thanked him and drove directly to Haven Ridge, where Professor Harlow waited in her office. The rain had returned, casting a grayish pall over the campus. Students hurried between buildings, faces hidden beneath umbrellas, conversations muted. News of Tristan's discovery had spread, reviving a tragedy many had forgotten. "Tell me about the basement where they found him," Natalie asked immediately, offering Spencer coffee from a French press on her desk. Spencer accepted the cup. The Lancaster building was scheduled for renovation as part of the campus renewal project. During demolition, workers discovered a passageway leading to a sealed room not on any blueprints. "The Lancaster building," Natalie repeated, recognition flashing across her face. "That's where the psychology department was housed until the 1990s, before we moved to the new Behavioral Sciences Center." The room appeared to be an old record storage area, long abandoned when the department relocated, Spencer continued. "Whoever placed Tristan there knew it existed, but wouldn't be discovered. The entrance was concealed behind a maintenance closet and sealed with additional drywall." Natalie shuddered. "All these years he was here on campus. We searched everywhere." "Not everywhere," Spencer said gently. "The room wasn't on any official plans. Someone knew about it, someone familiar with the building's history. Like a faculty member or a student with access to historical information." Spencer placed 4 photographs on Natalie's desk, headshots from university ID cards. "Tell me about Tristan's research group." Natalie studied the faces. Alexis Warner, ambitious, competitive, always challenging Tristan. Dominic Voss, brilliant but erratic, worked in bursts of inspiration. Zoe Tanner, methodical, precise, quietest of the group. Noah Blackwell, legacy student, minimal effort, more interested in social connections than academics. "Where are they now?" Natalie frowned, thinking. "Alexis is completing her PhD at Stanford. Dominic works for a behavioral analysis firm in Boston. Zoe teaches at Massachusetts State. Noah joined his family's investment firm." "Successful outcomes," Spencer observed. "Did any of them strike you as capable of violence?" Natalie hesitated. "Detective, these were psychology students analyzing the relationship between academic pressure and mental health. The irony isn't lost on me. The night Tristan disappeared, what do you know about their project?" "They were presenting findings the next morning. Tristan had mentioned a breakthrough, but I never learned what it was. The version they ultimately submitted made no mention of any groundbreaking discovery." Spencer nodded, making notes. "Professor, I'll need access to all records related to this project. Grades, submissions, communications." "Of course, though I wonder—" "Yes?" "The research itself. If Tristan found something significant, something worth killing for, wouldn't it be in his notes?" Spencer smiled slightly. "We recovered a damaged notebook and computer from his backpack. Our tech team is working on data recovery now." The investigation accelerated over the following days. Spencer established a timeline of Tristan's final hours, meticulously cross-referencing security footage, witness statements, and physical evidence. 12:17 a.m. Tristan exits the library during rainfall. 12:26 a.m. Enters the science building using his keycard. 1:43 a.m. Last text message sent from his phone. "You need to see this. Meet me at Lancaster. Entrance through East Maintenance Door." Recipient: unknown. Phone records corrupted. After 1:43 a.m. No digital footprint. Spencer interviewed campus security officers who had worked that night. None recalled seeing Tristan leave the science building. None had patrol records near the Lancaster building. It had been decommissioned, considered low priority. The detective then focused on Tristan's research group, starting with alibis for that night. Alexis Warner claimed she'd returned to her off-campus apartment immediately after the meeting, arriving home by 12:30 a.m. Her roommate confirmed this initially. When pressed, the roommate admitted she'd been asleep when Alexis came home and couldn't verify the exact time. Dominic Voss said he'd stopped at an all-night diner near campus. The waitress remembered him. He'd ordered coffee and worked on his laptop until nearly 3 a.m. Security footage from the diner confirmed his presence from 12:40 a.m. until 2:55 a.m. Zoe Tanner provided an Uber receipt showing she'd been picked up near the library at 12:22 a.m. and dropped at her apartment at 12:36 a.m. Her building had no security cameras. Noah Blackwell had indeed been at Blackwell's Pub, the bar his family owned near campus, from approximately 12:30 a.m. until closing. Multiple witnesses and security footage confirmed his presence. Spencer reviewed the footage herself. Noah entered the bar at 12:33 a.m., 16 minutes after leaving the library. The walking distance between locations was approximately 5 minutes, 11 unaccounted minutes. "Where were you between leaving the library and arriving at the pub?" Spencer asked him during their interview at his father's investment firm. Noah, now wearing a tailored suit instead of the casual clothes of his college days, smiled with practiced charm. "I stopped to take a call from my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend now. We were having problems." "Phone records don't show a call during that time." His smile didn't waver. "It was through a messaging app. More privacy that way." Spencer made a note. One inconsistency didn't make him a murderer, but it warranted further investigation. The forensic team processing the basement room made additional discoveries: a partial fingerprint on one of the metal shelving units that hadn't been completely destroyed by time and elements, carpet fibers inconsistent with the room's flooring, but matching carpeting used in dormitories during that period, and most intriguingly, a small university pin wedged between floorboards, a recognition pin given to students who made the president's list 3 consecutive semesters. The kind of pin Tristan Cole would have worn on his backpack, the kind of pin that could have been torn off during a struggle. 4 years had passed, but the truth remained preserved in that sealed room, waiting for someone to uncover it. And Detective Spencer was just getting started. "Academic competition has always existed," Dr. Franklin Rhodes explained, his office in Haven Ridge's administration building offering a panoramic view of the campus. As university president, he had navigated countless crises, but the discovery of Tristan Cole's remains had shaken even his practiced composure. "But what we've seen over the past decade is different, more intense, more consuming." Detective Spencer nodded, recording the conversation. "How so?" "Students arrive with unprecedented pressure. Perfect grades aren't enough anymore. They need research experience, publications, leadership positions, internships, all while maintaining mental health and developing as individuals." He sighed. "The system demands perfection, while human beings remain fundamentally imperfect." "Creating a pressure cooker environment." "Precisely. We've increased counseling services, implemented wellness programs, but the underlying culture remains." "And Tristan Cole? How did he navigate this environment?" Rhodes smiled sadly. "Tristan was extraordinary, naturally gifted, but also genuinely kind. He helped other students, shared his notes, offered tutoring. That combination is rare. Excellence often breeds isolation." "Or resentment," Spencer suggested. "Unfortunately, yes. Success can become a target when others are struggling." After leaving Rhodes' office, Spencer met with Professor Gabriel Linden, who ran the research lab Tristan had accessed the night he disappeared. He was working on data analysis, Linden confirmed, showing Spencer the lab's sign-in records from 4 years earlier. Arrived at 12:40 a.m., signed out at 1:35 a.m. Was that unusual, working so late? Not for serious researchers. This lab operates 24/7 for precisely that reason. "Did security footage show who he met with after leaving?" Linden shook his head. "Cameras in this building record on a 30-day loop. Those files were gone long before anyone thought to check them." Spencer's next stop was the university archives, where she reviewed the original group project submission. The document was professionally written, methodically researched, and utterly conventional. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing worth killing for. "This isn't what Tristan was excited about," she muttered to herself. The university's IT department had preserved the group's electronic submissions, including earlier drafts. Spencer spent hours comparing versions, noting what had been removed or altered. Entire sections on predictive modeling had disappeared from the final submission. References to a novel algorithm had been deleted. Tristan's name remained on the author list. but his contributions had been systematically excised. They scrubbed his breakthrough, she realized. That evening, Spencer received a call from the tech team analyzing Tristan's recovered laptop. "The hard drive suffered water damage, but we've recovered fragments," the technician explained. "Most interesting are the text messages synced to his cloud account." "What did you find?" "Exchanges between Tristan and his group members the week before he disappeared. Increasing tension, particularly with Warner and Voss. Cole accused Warner of trying to undermine his research. Voss demanded Cole delay publication of their findings." "Motive," Spencer whispered. "There's more," the technician continued. "We recovered partial email drafts suggesting Cole discovered academic misconduct by someone in the department. He was gathering evidence before reporting it." "What kind of misconduct?" "The drafts don't specify, but he references borrowed methodology and uncredited data sets, academic speak for plagiarism." The next morning, Spencer requested university records for all publications from psychology department faculty and graduate students during the relevant period. She spent days cross-referencing methodologies, datasets, and conclusions with Tristan's recovered notes. The pattern emerged slowly. A graduate thesis by Alexis Warner, published 6 months after Tristan's disappearance, used a methodology strikingly similar to algorithms found in his notes. The thesis had won the department's annual award and secured Warner a prestigious fellowship at Stanford. Spencer drove to the University Counseling Center, where Dr. Meera Patel had worked with students from the psychology department during that period. "I can't discuss specific patients," Dr. Patel explained, "but I can tell you that academic pressures affect students differently. Some channel stress productively. Others develop maladaptive coping strategies." "Like what?" "Substance abuse, self-isolation, perfectionism taken to unhealthy extremes. And in rare cases, ethical boundaries blur. The pressure to succeed overwhelms moral considerations." "Plagiarism? Cheating?" Dr. Patel nodded. "More common than anyone wants to admit. When your entire future hinges on a single project or publication, desperate measures can seem justified." Spencer's investigation led her back to Professor Harlow's office, where she spread out her findings, text messages, publication records, project drafts. "Someone in Tristan's group stole his research," Spencer stated. "After he disappeared, they used his methodology without credit, building their career on his work." Natalie studied the evidence, her expression darkening. Alexis Warner. "Her thesis methodology wasn't her style at all. I should have recognized it wasn't original." "I've requested Stanford's admission records. The fellowship she received is worth over $200,000, plus guaranteed academic placement after graduation." "Career-making," Natalie whispered. "But is plagiarism motive for murder?" "It's about more than plagiarism," Spencer replied. "It's about someone brilliant threatening to expose academic fraud. The stakes in academia may seem abstract to outsiders, but they're intensely real to those involved." What happens next? We interview each group member again with this new information. Someone killed Tristan Cole, Professor Harlow. Someone with access to a forgotten basement in Lancaster Building. Someone who knew exactly how to make a body disappear on this campus. As she gathered her materials, Spencer's phone buzzed with a message from the forensic team. The damaged notebook recovered with Tristan's remains had yielded critical information. Several pages contained handwritten notes about observed anomalies in research being conducted by both Alexis Warner and Dominic Voss. Detailed, methodical documentation of suspected plagiarism from published papers. More damning still was the final entry, dated the day before his disappearance. Confronted AW about data appropriation, meeting DV tomorrow to discuss next steps. If neither takes responsibility, we'll bring evidence to Professor H on Thursday. Tristan had discovered their academic theft. He had confronted them, and within 24 hours, he had disappeared. Detective Spencer spread the evidence across the conference room table at the police station: photographs, timelines, recovered text messages, and most critically, Tristan's journal. The handwritten pages told a story of increasing suspicion and eventual certainty. September 27th. Noticed similarities between AWS methodology and the published work of Dr. Lineman at Princeton. Too close for coincidence. Need to verify sources. October 3rd. DV presented original statistical model today. Recognized elements from Kaminsky's unpublished dissertation. How did he access this? Ethical concerns mounting. October 10th. Confirmed AW did not cite original sources for key components of her research design. Deliberate omission based on draft revision history. This crosses ethical boundaries. October 15th. DV continues using modified versions of others' work without attribution. Pattern now undeniable. Have compiled documentation of all instances. October 17th. Confronted AW privately about citations. Reaction concerning. Initial denial, then anger, then implied threat to my own work. Recorded conversation as documentation. The final entry, October 18th, the day before his disappearance. Meeting DV tonight after group session. Will present evidence directly. If neither takes responsibility, ethical obligation to report to Professor H, academic integrity, non-negotiable, despite personal consequences. He was going to expose them both, Spencer said to her partner, Detective Rodriguez. Warner and Voss were building their careers on stolen work. Cole had proof. And the algorithm he discovered? The breakthrough everyone mentions? Spencer tapped a page of complex equations. Based on our data expert's analysis, he developed a predictive model identifying psychological factors that could lead to violence in academic settings. The irony is painful. So which one killed him? Warner or Voss? Spencer shook her head. The evidence suggests collaboration. Warner's alibi has holes. Her roommate can't confirm exact arrival time. And while Voss was at the diner, he disappears from camera view multiple times, claiming bathroom breaks. Any physical evidence linking either to the scene? The partial fingerprint from the basement matched Voss, and forensics found microscopic blood evidence in a crack between floorboards. DNA confirmed as Tristan's. Enough for arrests? Almost. We're executing search warrants on their residences today. If we find the murder weapon or additional evidence, we move. The search of Dominic Voss's Boston apartment yielded unexpected results. Hidden in a locked storage container in his bedroom closet, officers discovered a heavy brass award, a psychology department recognition for undergraduate research excellence. The base matched the width of Tristan's skull fracture. Trace evidence included microscopic blood residue in the metal seams. Alexis Warner's Stanford campus office contained a locked file cabinet with original drafts of her thesis, versions showing track changes and comments from Dominic Voss, helping her incorporate Tristan's methodology while disguising its origin. Most damning was a recovered email thread between Warner and Voss from the night of Tristan's disappearance. Warner, 1:57 a.m. Is it done? I'm freaking out. Voss, 2:03 a.m. It's handled. Don't text anymore. Call when you can. Warner, 2:04 a.m. What about his laptop? Notes? Voss, 2:07 a.m. Everything's secure. No more messages. Spencer arranged for simultaneous arrests. Warner in California, Voss in Massachusetts. Both were transported back to the jurisdiction covering Haven Ridge University. Neither confessed initially, each maintaining their innocence while suggesting the other's culpability. Then forensics made the final connection. The carpet fibers found in the basement matched the specific dormitory carpeting installed during renovations that year, specifically in Thornton Hall, where both Warner and Voss had lived, one floor apart. Spencer set up separate interviews, starting with Alexis Warner. Now 30 years old, Warner had lost the sharp edges of her college years. Her Stanford credentials and budding academic reputation contrasted sharply with the prison jumpsuit she now wore. "I didn't kill him," she insisted immediately. "That was never the plan." "What was the plan?" Spencer asked, maintaining eye contact. Warner looked away. "Dominic said we could scare him into keeping quiet. We just needed his research." "Do you understand what was at stake? My entire future?" "So you lured him to Lancaster Building?" Dominic sent the text. "Tristan trusted him more than me. We just wanted to talk, to convince him that exposing us would ruin everything we'd worked for." And when talking failed, Warner's composure cracked. Tristan wouldn't listen. He kept saying academic integrity wasn't negotiable. That stolen research poisoned the entire field. He was going to report us both the next morning. Then what happened? Dominic just snapped. He had this award statue in his backpack. Before I could stop him, She couldn't finish the sentence. "You helped hide the body," she nodded almost imperceptibly. "Dominic knew about the basement from a campus history project. We wrapped Tristan in a tarp, took his backpack and laptop. Dominic sealed the room the next day when campus was empty for fall break. And then you both used his research to advance your careers." Warner's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't mean for anyone to die, but once it happened, we couldn't waste the opportunity. His algorithm worked. It predicted exactly what happened to him. The investigation is heating up. If you've figured out who might be responsible, drop your theories in the comments below. And if you're new here, subscribe to Last Seen Stories for more chilling true crime investigations. The truth about what happened in that sealed basement is about to be revealed. The Boston offices of Behavioral Analysis Partners occupied the 15th floor of a sleek downtown high-rise. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the harbor, while minimalist furniture and abstract art created an atmosphere of clinical sophistication. Dominic Voss had built a successful career analyzing human behavior for corporate clients, interpreting micro-expressions, predicting consumer responses, optimizing workplace dynamics. The irony wasn't lost on Detective Spencer as she waited in the reception area. When Voss emerged from a conference room, his expression shifted microscopically upon seeing her, surprise, quickly masked by professional courtesy. "Detective Spencer," he greeted her, extending his hand. "What brings you to Boston?" "New developments in the Tristan Cole case," she replied, not taking his hand. "Is there somewhere private we can talk?" He led her to his office, closing the door behind them. Awards lined the walls, recognition for innovative behavioral analysis techniques. Publications filled a bookshelf, including a hardbound copy of his doctoral dissertation. "We've arrested Alexis Warner," Spencer stated without preamble. Voss's micro-expressions betrayed him, a specialist in reading others, yet unable to fully control his own reactions. Fear, calculation, resolution. "I assume she's making accusations to save herself," he said, voice steady despite the pulse visibly throbbing in his neck. "We have the murder weapon, Mr. Voss, a brass award statue from your undergraduate days. Blood evidence matches Tristan Cole. Your fingerprints are all over it." "That's impossible. We also have the text messages, the email thread, your fingerprint in the basement, and now, Alexis Warner's full confession." Voss sank into his chair, the carefully constructed professional facade crumbling. "She helped. She was there. She wanted him silenced as much as I did." "Tell me what happened that night." His eyes focused on something distant. "We texted Tristan to meet us at Lancaster, claiming we wanted to discuss his concerns privately. He came alone, thinking we were going to confess and make amends. October 18th, 4 years earlier. Rain fell in sheets across Haven Ridge campus. The Lancaster building stood dark, unused for years, yet still accessible through maintenance entrances known to few. Tristan arrived, soaked from the rain, clutching his laptop bag. His expression showed not anger, but disappointment upon seeing both Alexis and Dominic waiting. "I didn't expect both of you," he said quietly. "We need to talk about your accusations," Alexis replied, arms crossed defensively. "They're not accusations. They're documented instances of academic misconduct." "You're being sanctimonious," Dominic interjected. "Everyone builds on others' work." "Building on and stealing from are different concepts," Tristan countered, opening his laptop. "I've compiled every instance where you've lifted methodologies without attribution. It's systematic, not accidental." "And you're planning to show this to Professor Harlow?" Alexis asked, her voice tight. "Tomorrow morning. I'm giving you both the chance to come forward voluntarily first. It would look better." "Better?" Dominic laughed bitterly. "My fellowship application is pending. Alexis is interviewing at Stanford next week. You'll destroy everything we've worked for." "You destroyed it yourselves," Tristan replied, closing his laptop. "I'm sorry, but academic integrity isn't optional." "What about loyalty?" Alexis demanded. "We're supposed to be a team." "Loyalty doesn't extend to covering academic fraud." Dominic moved closer. "You're not thinking this through, Tristan. Your algorithm, the predictive model, it's revolutionary. We could develop it together, share the credit. Instead of destroying careers, we could all succeed. With research built on plagiarism, that's not success, it's fraud." Dominic reached into his backpack. "I brought something to show you, my award from last year's symposium for original research." He withdrew a heavy brass statue, its base gleaming dully in the dim light. "Original? That word means something to you, doesn't it?" "Dominic," Alexis warned, suddenly tense. "What are you doing?" Showing Tristan the cost of his moral high ground, Dominic hefted the award. "This represents everything I've worked for, everything you're threatening to take away." Tristan backed toward the door. "I'm leaving. We'll discuss this with Professor Harlow tomorrow." "No," Dominic said quietly. "We won't." The attack happened in an instant, a single, powerful swing. The brass base connected with the back of Tristan's head as he turned to leave. He collapsed without a sound, blood immediately pooling on the dusty floor. "What have you done?" Alexis screamed, rushing forward. Dominic stood frozen, the bloodied award in his hand. "I didn't mean... I just wanted to stop him." Alexis checked for a pulse, finding none. "He's dead." "Oh God, he's dead!" Panic gave way to grim practicality. They couldn't risk moving the body off campus. Too many security cameras, too many potential witnesses despite the late hour. Dominic remembered the sealed records room from a campus history project, abandoned, forgotten, accessible through a maintenance corridor. They wrapped Tristan's body in a plastic tarp from a nearby renovation site, taking his backpack and laptop to prevent immediate identification if discovered. Working together, they carried him through the rain to Lancaster Building's east entrance, down the maintenance corridor, into the forgotten room. "We left him there," Voss concluded, his voice hollow. "I came back the next day and sealed the entrance with materials from a construction dumpster. No one would look for him in a building that was scheduled for demolition." "And then you stole his research," Spencer said, disgust evident in her voice. Voss closed his eyes. "The algorithm worked perfectly. It predicted that academic pressure, combined with certain personality factors, could trigger violence when careers were threatened. Tristan's own model predicted exactly what happened to him. You could have walked away that night. You could have accepted the consequences of your plagiarism." "You don't understand academic pressure," Voss insisted. "Exposure meant the end of everything. No graduate school, no career, no future." In that moment, it seemed like there was no choice. "There's always a choice, Mr. Voss." Spencer stood, signaling to officers waiting outside the office door. "Dominic Voss, you're under arrest for the murder of Tristan Cole." As they led him away, Voss looked back at his office, the awards, publications, and accolades built on stolen ideas and a foundation of blood. "Tell Professor Harlow I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I wasn't strong enough to be honest." "Save it for your trial," Spencer replied. "Tristan deserved the truth 4 years ago." Spring returned to Haven Ridge University. Cherry blossoms lined the pathways where students hurried between classes, most too young to remember Tristan Cole except as a campus legend, the brilliant student who vanished, whose remains were found in a sealed basement years later. In a crowded courtroom downtown, justice finally arrived. Dominic Voss and Alexis Warner both received sentences, Voss for second-degree murder, Warner as an accessory after the fact. Their academic careers ended not with prestigious positions and publications, but with disgrace and imprisonment. The court recognizes that this crime stemmed from academic pressure and fear of exposure, the judge stated during sentencing. But such pressure never justifies taking a human life. Tristan Cole represented the integrity that should be at the heart of all academic pursuits. His death was not just a loss to his family and friends, but to society that would have benefited from his ethical contributions to his field. Professor Natalie Harlow watched from the gallery, her expression solemn. After the sentencing, she met with Detective Spencer outside the courthouse. "It doesn't bring him back," Natalie said quietly, "but it does provide answers." "The truth matters," Spencer replied, "even when delayed." That's what Tristan believed. It's why he died. The following week, Haven Ridge University held a memorial service in the campus chapel. Students, faculty, and administrators gathered to honor Tristan's memory and acknowledge the darker truths his murder had exposed about academic culture. President Rhodes announced the establishment of the Tristan Cole Memorial Scholarship for Ethical Research, an annual award for students demonstrating exceptional integrity in their academic pursuits. Alongside the scholarship, the university implemented new policies on academic misconduct and mental health support. Tristan's algorithm was prophetic, Rhodes explained to the assembled crowd. He identified how pressure can distort judgment and ethics. His work, posthumously published with full attribution, is already changing how universities approach student welfare and academic integrity. After the ceremony, Professor Harlow walked to a newly installed bench beneath a maple tree near the psychology building. A small plaque bore Tristan's name and the words, "In pursuit of truth, whatever the cost." Detective Spencer joined her there, sitting quietly for a moment before speaking. "We found his original research notes," she said, "the complete algorithm. The university's data science department confirmed it works, predicting with surprising accuracy the conditions under which academic pressure might lead to ethical breaches or even violence." "He was trying to prevent exactly what happened to him," Natalie observed sadly. The Journal of Behavioral Psychology is publishing his work in next month's issue. Full credit, complete methodology. 4 years too late. Spencer nodded, but not forgotten, and maybe his work will prevent similar tragedies. As afternoon shadows lengthened across the campus quad, they sat in contemplative silence. Students passed by, laughing, studying, living, unaware of how a single act of violence had changed policies designed to protect them. "Academia rewards brilliance," Natalie finally said, "but we don't always teach the courage required to use it ethically." Tristan had both. Yes, and it cost him everything. They rose to leave, casting final glances at the memorial bench, a small reminder of a life cut short by the very pressures he had sought to understand and mitigate. In Lancaster Building, now fully renovated and reopened as a student wellness center, a wall display told Tristan's story, not just his tragic end, but his contributions to understanding the psychological impact of academic pressure. The basement where his remains were found had been transformed into a meditation space, light now filling what had once been darkness. His breakthrough algorithm, finally published under his name, was already being implemented at universities nationwide, identifying at-risk students and providing intervention before pressure turned destructive. In death, Tristan Cole had achieved what he hoped to accomplish in life, creating a system to protect others from the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition and ethical compromise. Tristan's story reminds us how academic pressure can turn deadly. If you know someone struggling with the weight of expectations, share this video with them. And for more cases that expose the darkest corners of human nature, subscribe to Last Seen Stories and hit that notification bell. Sometimes the most important lessons come from the most tragic circumstances.